Welcome to Stop Trying to Think Your Way Out of Burnout. I'm Jackie Roby, relationship mindset coach and founder of Inspire Journey Consulting. Ambitious women of color and allies hire me to break free from hustle culture, reclaim their time freedom, and become the main character of their lives. I am over the moon excited to be here with my friend, colleague, energy expert, Mandy Sciacchitano.
Hi, Jackie. I'm so excited to be here too. Thanks for having me. My name is Mandy. I am, as Jackie mentioned, an energy worker and a leadership. And I really specialize in helping leaders to heal so that we can overcome the obstacles that are in our way to actually achieving all of the dreams and goals that we have. Kicking the self-doubt to the curb, all of those subconscious blocks, all of the energetic blocks that we have to achieving our dreams.
One of the reasons that we wanted to come together and do this is because Mandy and I have a lot of similar principles in mind in terms of how we view and recognize burnout. And we see it in a way that oftentimes our society doesn't because it is so easy to get caught up in your day to day life. And we approach things with our clients from a very practical and scientific aspect to bring it down to a level that oftentimes you're not seeing. Things can be really jargon focused or too ethereal. And that's not the way we roll. So we knew coming together would be helpful to give you different perspectives and support around this really common issue that's happening all over. In America alone, 55% of women are more likely to experience burnout versus 44% of men. We have this emotional labor and tax on us that is exhausting. We're frankly exhausted. So, burnout is really our stress in our body just saying, no, that's it. I'm done. It is an excessive amount and it takes its toll. But we're not paying attention to the signs because we believe somewhere in us that we are meant to be this stress. That's just what life is. That's just what adulting is, right? So I want you to start thinking about the signs that might be showing up. Are you anxious, irritable, emotionally exhausted? How are you feeling about you? Are you saying lots of mean things? Are you catching the mean things that you say? How is your concentration? The relationships that you're in? Do you notice that you're on edge, getting a little snappy at each other? I'm a Bostonian. We love our cocktails. I'm cool with that. And do you know when there's a little too much happening in that arena? What's the loneliness factor like? You can be in a room full of people and not feel like you belong. And are you becoming really cynical and grumpy, which can absolutely happen? There's also a physical exhaustion that happens. Maybe you're sleepy. All of these are signs of burnout, and they're not helping you to be your best. Tell us what your experience is like when you burn out. The thing is, it can go in extremes. It can be really big and it can have you out. You're going to take short term disability for these things. Or your head is cloudy and you just don't know and you're so grumpy and you're just staring at your computer. There's just nothing. I don't even know what to do with this anymore. So, on that range, what is your experience like? I want to give you all some understanding that your mind, while a beautiful space, is often working against you. 80% of your thoughts are negative. Okay. So, it really does take time and effort to create that change, but it's working in this stress space towards burnout. So, what's happening though in our body?
So, one of the things that you mentioned is something that's so important to me to bring these nebulous concepts down to earth so that we can understand them in real applicable ways. Because I think sometimes burnout can be a buzzword, right? It can be something that we say a lot, but we don't actually know what it means. And similarly, it's very nuanced. It's not a simple, easy here. If you have these three symptoms, you're in burnout. If you don't have these symptoms, you're not in burnout. It's never that easy. And it's because we're an intricate system. We have many layers to our being that are all constantly providing feedback to one another. And when one of these layers goes a bit haywire, the other layers get thrown off as well. So when we're talking about burnout, we're talking about something that's happening on a mental level, but it's also happening on a real physical level. And the physical level is the place we need to start towards healing it. So, on a physical level, when we refer to the term survival mode, this is very common in terms of what's happening in our bodies when we're experiencing burnout. So, we have in our overarching nervous system three main subdivisions. You probably have heard of them before. So, we have our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. We have the parasympathetic system, which is the rest and digest. And then we have the enteric system, which is the gut brain. So when we go into a survival mode, it's essentially when we're stuck in a sympathetic response. In order for us to get out of that response, we have to actually close the loop. This is a term that I'm borrowing from Emily and Amelia Nagoski from their book Burnout. And essentially, what closing the loop means is completing the cycle. So, when there's a stress response that makes us enter into this nervous system state, we have to actually do something to trigger us back into our parasympathetic state on a physical level. We see this all the time in the natural world. For example, if you've ever seen a bird run into your window, and it looks like it's dead. And then a couple minutes later, it pops up and it shakes and it flies away. The shake is the response that completes the cycle. The threat is gone. We're okay. It shakes it out of the body and then it gets up and flies away. So we have to close the loop in the body. And when we're undergoing a lot of consistent stress and consistent triggers to the sympathetic nervous system, this is something that we have to do on a consistent basis. So I listed down here some things that can activate our sympathetic nervous system that we don't even realize. So things like high intensity exercise or caffeine, or even just looking at your phone too much, or looking at the TV too much, any sort of technological overstimulation. If there's a particular diet that you're on that is feeling unsafe in your body or in your nervous system, that can also trigger this response. So essentially, what survival mode means is that there's something in your body that doesn't feel safe in a circumstance. And so the response that we have to bring it is find a way to make the body feel safe. And so when we say you can't think your way out of burnout, like Jackie says, so many of our thoughts are negative. I think she said something like 80% of our thoughts are negative. So when we're having these thoughts and we're thinking, okay, what do I need to do? I need to fix this. How do I fix this? How do I fix this? We're often reinforcing the problem and just creating that negative feedback loop inside our bodies. So there are also some really physical signs that happen when we're in this stress response because we're getting this flood of hormones into the body as well. So I have some listed here. The shallow breathing, if you're like a chest breather, that can often be a sign of being in this response. If you feel like you have back pain or shoulder pain, tension in your muscles, that can be a sign of it. If you have digestive issues or if you find yourself constantly getting colds, getting sick, if you find that you go into reactive mode, something happens and you don't even pause to think, you just react to it from an emotional state. A lot of these can be very kind of palpable signs that we are in this sort of burnout or sympathetic response. This obviously impacts all different areas of our life. Like Jackie was saying, it impacts our relationships, it impacts our work life. It really does affect how concentrated we can be, how focused we can be, and our overall health in general. But as I mentioned, we do have tools that can help bring safety to the body, some that work quickly in real time, and some that we need to practice a little bit more over time. But I also really want to emphasize a key point here that being regulated or getting out of burnout doesn't mean that you're calm all the time. I think this is a misunderstanding. We often think like, oh, if I could just get myself regulated, if I could just feel peace, if I could just feel balanced in my life. And it's not about that at all. We all have stressors. We all experience those things that I just mentioned that send us into that sympathetic response. It's about being able to recognize when it's happening and shorten your response time so that you can bring yourself back to center and you can trust yourself to respond and bring yourself back to center because that self-trust is a big part of feeling safe in our own bodies. Oh, I'm so connected to my body. I can recognize when something is off balance and I trust myself to respond in a way that's going to be an act of care for myself. So, those are the main impacts, the main ways that we see this manifest in the physical body. I think something really important for us to also talk about, though, is what gets in the way of us actually taking the actions that we need to take to improve things, to improve how we feel, to get ourselves out of this burnout response. Because that's something that I see all the time in myself, even and in others. We constantly have excuses, we have a reason why we're stuck, why we're not moving, why things aren't changing. Are there any themes that you often see, Jackie?
So it's tricky. We're moving so quickly, right? And as we've said to you, there are subtle things that are happening in our bodies, in our minds, that we've just come to recognize as normal. And so it can be difficult to catch them along the way. And then we create this reasoning that often happens. I hear this from my clients a lot. I don't have time. I don't have energy. I don't have 2 minutes. You don't have 2 minutes, right? The entire thought process of that. But yet, how often are you scrolling? The doom scroll that we all talk about is you really need to watch that thing that's going to piss you off and make you more stressed out, or you're sitting at your desk thinking about the deadline that was just pushed up when you could take that 2 minutes that you're freaking out and do something to calm yourself instead. But it becomes a really intentional decision. Mandy talked a lot about survival, and it's really important to recognize that our bodies and our minds are constantly thinking that we're in danger. So even when you're looking to make a positive change, that beautiful brain of yours is like, ooh, panic button. This could be an issue. So part of creating that regulated nervous system is creating that safety in your body so that your body knows what that feels like and is actually that's where we want to go. It's cool. Let's go there. But we find reasons to not do something often. And also, it becomes this cycle of beating ourselves up, like we're not doing it the right way. And just like Manny had said, how we're not going to be calm all the time because that's real, right? It is about shortening your recovery. But often I find that women are putting pressure on themselves to do it perfectly or to do it themselves. Because if you can't do it yourself, you have to be the one to fix it, right? It's all your responsibility. And that's a lot to carry. So we want to walk you through some solutions. We want to be respectful of your time, and we're going to tell you just a few things that you can take with you to create that change. And recognize that burnout, it takes a while. It's under the surface, it's building up. So if you can do proactive things to minimize the recovery, minimize even the chances, start to understand yourself, oh, what a gift that is. I've gotten to the point with my body where I can recognize if one of my fingers is tense. Like, what am I doing with my hand? That's strange. I usually don't do that. Okay, something's happening here. One of the other things that Mandy mentioned was around being on screens too much. Something that's come up for me recently is eye fatigue from that. So, a really simple thing could just be closing your eyes, and I'm going to do it now because it's going to be weird if I don't, and then looking to the left, looking to the right, looking up, looking down. And do that a few times. And it's only seconds at a time, right? But you're paying attention. You're being really mindful. You're present in the moment and it's bringing you back to your body. I love to have my clients take 3 deep breaths. It's so simple. It's so simple. And we discount the importance of our breath. And maybe there's something that you need a reminder of. Maybe it's the colleague that drives you batty. For a while, it was my teenage bonus daughter. And every time it was my reminder to take 3 deep breaths so that I'm not reacting and I'm taking care of myself. I'm gifting myself with ways to calm and regulate and respond. And that is going to make an impact on your relationships, personally, professionally, and with yourself because you're loving yourself more by doing that. We've also talked about setting boundaries. No, you're not going to work through lunch. Block it in your calendar. Block your calendar for, what we're all talking about of white space. That's yours now. That's a non-negotiable. Choose your path. You have the opportunity to design your days and your life the way you want it to look. And it can happen in small increments. But you need to remember that you're choosing yourself at this point in time and start to think about rest. What does really good rest feel like? And it's not a nap. Naps are awesome, but rest is different. How can rest fulfill you? And are you getting enough of it? Most people will say no. So you don't even have to answer. But if you could have just 5 minutes of rest, what would that be? Let's be realistic. Let's take small strategic steps. So that way you've got one thing you can walk away with and know that you can fit it into your day and maybe pair it with something you already do. So it's manageable and doesn't feel overwhelming.
So I think what Jackie is pointing to here is that getting out of this cycle is not just a one and done practice, that it often requires these big lifestyle shifts, showing up in different ways, like having a different way of being. We do have some smaller practices that we can teach you in the moment, and I'm going to tell you about some of that here now. And then we have some suggestions for these bigger lifestyle shifts, like what Jackie was talking about, like creating blank space, honoring your boundaries, honoring the time that you need to take to have for yourself, honoring your commitment to yourself. How often have I booked a yoga class and then decided not to go last minute? And just zoned out to the TV instead, right? Sometimes we are our own biggest obstacles to taking good care of ourselves. So the first strategy, I'm going to take it back to that little birdie that ran into the window. We, just like birds, need to complete the cycle in our bodies, and shaking, like the bird shakes, is a great way of doing that. There's a reason why we see this in so many indigenous ceremonies and different religious types of gatherings and things like that in different cultures around the world. So, something really simple and quick, if you are in a position to do this, when you are feeling really activated, you're feeling yourself in that response, is just to stand up and shake everything in your body. Shake your arms, shake your hands, shake your feet, jump up and down, trill your lips, move your head, do all of it. You do that for 10 seconds even, and it can create the biggest release. And then often when you sit down, you feel like, oh, okay, I almost feel like jelly, like I released so much. A simple practice of just shaking everything can stop that cycle and send you back into that relaxed state. There's another little practice that I like to do. I call it feel your feet, because essentially what we're trying to do here is get out of our heads and into our bodies, right? We're trying to stop that cycle of thinking that's keeping us in the feedback loop and bring safety into our body. So feeling your feet, this can be done anywhere, anytime. And it's just simply about bringing all of your attention down to your feet and noticing, how do my feet feel? What are they touching? What does the fabric feel like? What is the temperature of them? Where are my feet right now on this planet Earth? Can I bring myself down to where my feet are right now, in this moment in time, this date on the calendar, this little slice of land that I'm on? Just being aware of your feet can bring everything back down. If anyone's familiar with EFT tapping, we can use EFT tapping in a lot of different ways. Just tapping on some simple pressure points on your face or on your body. This activates the vagus nerve, And again, that has a very calming response on the body. You don't even have to say anything. You can just tap on these points. And then another one I really like that brings a feeling of safety into the body is you can take a pillow and hold the pillow to the front of your body and just squeeze it. That pressure. If you have a blanket that you can wrap around your shoulders as well, it creates almost like a cocoon-like effect. And it just helps your body come down. Often, when I hold a pillow like this, I'll just start crying immediately and I'll feel an instant release. If you don't have a pillow available, a way that you can mimic this, and we can practice this here together for 10 seconds, is by placing a hand on your chest, placing another hand on your belly, just softening your gaze at a point beyond your nose, and feeling the pressure of your hands. Really placing some pressure here, feeling the warmth of your hands, tracing the outline of your hands, and really focusing on receiving your own touch, receiving your own compassion. Taking some deep breaths. I like to pair this with a mantra. I have a mantra that helps a lot with anxiety and being in survival mode, and it's right now, in this moment, I'm safe. Right now, in this moment, my needs are met. And so pairing that with this receiving of your own touch, your own pressure on the front of your body can bring everything down. I want to talk about one other quick thing since I'm an energy worker. I got to talk about the energetics of all of this. And there's one big energetic component to being in burnout, and that is that sometimes it's because we're picking up on other people's energy. And even if you don't identify as an empath, this is happening. We have science behind it now. And I've listed some of the scientific studies that have been done that prove this. Like we have mirror neurons in our brain that fire both when we perform an action and when we see somebody else doing it. So I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes when I see somebody singing a song that I know, I'll be like moving my lips at the same time, like that sort of thing. But it's the same thing with energy. If we see somebody else crying, that will fire in my brain, that sort of empathetic response. We also have a measurable, scientifically measurable electromagnetic field that extends out from our hearts that has a frequency that can be felt several feet outside of our bodies. And it has been proven that this heart field synchronizes to other people that we come into contact with. So if your field is vibrating up here and somebody else's is vibrating down here, it will naturally meet somewhere in the middle when you're sharing space with them. There's nothing we can do about it usually. There are some practices that we can do to try and protect it, but you have to be super aware to prevent it from really happening. And then the other thing that Jackie alluded to is polyvagal theory, which essentially is that our subconscious is constantly scanning our surroundings for threats or for things that could potentially be unsafe. And somebody's expression could come across as a threat, right? Somebody's tone of voice, somebody's subject line in their email could come across as a threat to our subconscious. And so in this way, we're picking up on their energies and we take them on as our own. And these are natural responses that our body is having. And taking on too much of other people's stuff, even just listening to a podcast or watching TV, those sorts of things, we're picking up on those energies as well. That can lead to overtaxing our nervous system. So we have to be really mindful, like Jackie was saying, of our bodies, what our bodies are feeling, where they're at, and simple things like breath work, little tools like the shaking, all of that can help you clear the energy that you're carrying of other people's as well.
Mandy, I love that. I want to add on top of it because it is so relevant. The female brain, we are built and wired to look to what other people are doing and feeling in order to see if we're safe.
Mhm.
So, as infants, at just a few months old, the ability to mirror someone's facial expressions and start to recognize the differences, it grows 400 times more than the male assigned at birth. That's not part of their skill set. That's not how their brains are wired, but ours is. Little you was looking to other people to feel safe, and that has continued on. So, of course, it's impacting you energetically, physically, all through it. Of course, it's contributing to your burnout. And even thinking and monitoring what areas make you feel safe, what types of communication. Start to notice those differences. We've given you a lot of information, and there's quick things that you can take away. Even just one of these things that we've told you, it really is an overall strategy and commitment to the change. I noticed recently my husband sent me a text with a joke, and I didn't get it. I just went by and I didn't know if it was a typo. And a few hours later, he's like, "You didn't laugh at my joke." I said, "Text is not working for me. Send me a voice note. Like, I need to hear you." Right? If I talk to somebody, I need Zoom, honestly. If I'm not in person, I need to see their face. That's part of being present and communicating in meaningful ways. But I wouldn't know that, right? Otherwise, and I've seen this with my clients, is they're choosing how to communicate in ways that feel good. Or if it doesn't feel good, to follow up with a question. But in order to be able to do that, you have to feel safe within you first. So that is so much of any change we make could make us feel unsafe. So we have to come back to these practices of calming your nervous system so that you can feel secure enough to move forward and do something differently.
So I was just talking about taking on other people's energies, and this can be a tricky one. I think unless you're used to clearing energy, having some sort of guided practice can really help at the beginning until you get the hang of it. So I have a free energy reset audio. I think it's about 8 minutes long, and it just guides you through a process of clearing your field, getting rid of other people's stuff, putting up some of our protective barriers. And I'll also send here an intro to tapping video. This video walks you through the science behind EFT tapping, how to use it, what tapping points to use. It can be used in a lot of ways, like I said before. And one of the longer term strategies for getting rid of burnout is to do this with a practitioner in a one-on-one way to help rewire your subconscious. But it can also just be used in your day-to-day life just to help regulate your nervous system. So I'll put those resources in the chat now, and we'll be sending them out to you afterwards as well.
Awesome. And I am sending you my 3 stress myths that are keeping you stuck and the simple fixes that actually work.